Welcome in, everybody, to the IA Sports Studio here for kind of the final edition of Locks and Dogs. Not even Locks and Dogs here today. We're doing something a little bit different, but Nick is here in studio. Nick, it's time. State championships. Which title game are you most excited for?
It's hard to say. A lot of them are exciting. 5A has a really interesting storyline with the Southeast Polk being potentially the first 4-loss state champion ever. I think that was from last week. West Lyon and Spirit Lake, I think will be a fun one. Just 2A was such a powerhouse semifinal for each one. I think the one I'm most excited for, I'd probably say West Lyon versus Spirit Lake. I think that's my favorite one to watch.
It's so boring because I'm going to copy you. But that game's going to be so that quarter. I mean, the sub-state game that those two teams played last year was incredible. Two teams fairly close to each other. I mean, they're going to bring a lot of people to the Dome. I think Grundy Center, Dyke New Hartford is going to be a ton of fun with everything on the line there. Two teams really close to Cedar Falls. It's going to be packed. I think the 4A nightcap on Thursdays. I mean, every single game has its storylines, and that's what makes today so fun. But hey, we're going to go back in time today. We're going back a month ago when we got our 16 teams left. Nick and I, on a little piece of paper, I'll show it right here. I have a picture. Oh, hold on. Nick and I, on this little piece of paper, wrote our title picks. Again, this is when there were 16 teams left in each class. We picked who was going to win and who was going to be in the title for each class. So today, as well as previewing the titles, we're going to go back and see how Nick and I did. This is a full circle moment where you guys can laugh with us, and some of them we nailed. I'll say it. Some of them we got right, but there are some where we were not right. But before we get to that, we do have some announcements. Next week, we're gonna be working on getting IAfootball All-State teams, and then our award show. And you can see we're expanding our award show. So not only do we have Mr. IAfootball, which is like the Heisman, the MVP of each class. We are expanding it. So each class is going to get a best quarterback, a best running back, a best wide receiver. We're going to do a defensive player of the year in each class. We're going to do an underclassman of the year in each class, a surprise team, and a newcomer of the year. Super excited to expand this. This will be on YouTube probably middle next week-ish whenever we get it all situated. And Dome MVP, I guess, is going to be on here too. I forgot to put that on here, but there might be a few more things added, but it's going to be super fun. Fun way to kind of culminate each class and give out some awards to not just one guy for Mr. IAfootball, but rather a bunch of people, a team, just kind of celebrate what was a good year. So we're excited to do that. But Nick, I say we start.
Yeah.
Class 5A. What did Nick and I have a month ago predicted? Let's reveal it.
I wasn't that far off.
Oh, there we go. Nick had Dowling over Liberty in the title game, and I just happened to nail the state title match. I didn't put my pick in here because I will be there, and I know not to get bullied with my pick. So my pick is on the sheet, but I had Southeast Polk and Valley in the title. I happened to nail it. Nick, considering you were down to 16 teams, you had the semifinalists.
Yeah.
Just flipped around. So not the worst thing we could do. But yeah, so not too shabby there. Let's get into, we're going to preview what is the actual state title game, which is Valley and Southeast Polk. Two teams that met in week one. Two teams, I think this is going to come to the wire, knowing how CIML games go. Holden Hansen, Drake DeGroot. I mean, they're stars on both sides. How about Caden Hills for Southeast Polk, man? He stepped up.
That was a big game for him.
He stepped up in a huge way. I mean, he was making some incredible catches. You got a good defensive matchup. I mean, Nick, what are you kind of looking at here as what could be the difference in this one?
Yeah, well, I mean, that Southeast Polk Liberty game, there was so much drama. That was probably one of my favorite games of the entire Dome.
Yeah.
It was hard not to. What I was really impressed with Southeast Polk was them keeping up with Liberty's intensity. Like, that was one of the biggest things with Liberty is they're such a high intensity, high energy team. And they just kind of wore down on them, just pounding the ball up the middle. And Hansen was completing his passes outside of that interception he had in the first quarter. I mean, he was lights out for the rest of the way through. And you look at Valley, I mean, they took down Dowling, and we've talked about Dowling all year. They are not an easy team to take down. I thought they played really well against them in that game. I didn't really get to watch that one as well as I got to watch the Southeast Polk one. But they played really well, and they got that touchdown in the fourth quarter that ended up taking them all the way through. It's hard for me to pick this game, though. I feel like it's more even than a lot of people think.
I mean, I feel like the common sense is that Valley is just the better team.
Right.
And they might be on paper, but just these CIML games, they go down to the wire.
Know.
They go down, and then one thing, and what impressed me with Valley is they didn't get out of the gates very good. Dowling kind of came out and kind of punched them in the mouth, and Valley had to claw back, and they got some stuff to go their way, and they took advantage of it, and now here they are. So Valley, Southeast Polk, Class 5A title. Nick, who you leaning here?
I mean, I feel like I would lead in Valley, but I feel like something is telling me the Southeast Polk isn't done yet. They've been here before, not in this particular situation with how their team has looked this year, but I just have this sneaky feeling that Southeast Polk, I mean, they've had such a year of improbability, and I think they're happy to be here, and I have a sneaky feeling telling me that something special might happen for these Rams.
Yeah, I mean, you saw the stat with no 4-loss team has ever won a state title, but what is on the other side of that is that no team not named Southeast Polk has ever won a Class 5A title. So there's the yin and the yang of that. But we'll move on to Class 4A. Let's see how Nick and I did predicting the 4A title a month ago. Wow. Both of us picked the top seed at the time, North Polk. It was just a matter of who they had. Nick had Decorah. I had North Scott. Obviously, those two ended up clashing in the semifinals. Back then, we didn't know what the dome matchups were going to be like, so it was a little more difficult to predict. But both believers in North Polk, you could say, and both of us ended up picking what would have been that sub-state matchup, which was North Scott and Decorah. So let's preview what is the Class 4A state title game. I got to go back a day. North Polk and Pella. Pella's a fun team, Nick. 11-1, 1 losses to Gilbert. They avenged that loss. North Polk is just a buzzsaw. This defense gives up nothing. The offense has Nathan Feldman, obviously at quarterback. They got BJ Tate running it. Jacob Phillips impressed me a ton. I'm kind of glad I got to watch him and really focus in on him. That dude's a stud wherever he plays. And then with Pella, it's Colin Kern, the converted wide receiver. I think that's a really cool story that's not getting enough love. He has stepped up in a big way under center. You got Emmanuel Deers, who's just electric. You can't give him any space because he's gone. They got threats on the outside with Tyson Barnes, and Nate Warner obviously just eclipsed that century mark in tackles. And this Pella defense has played really well down the stretch, especially in the key moments. So North Polk and Pella on Thursday night. This is your Thursday night nightcap. Expecting a huge crowd. Nick, what are you kind of thinking here?
Yeah, I mean, first I want to say North Polk, the score looks ugly against North Scott, but North Scott was a great team.
Yeah.
They had to get through Western Dubuque and Decorah, who was my runner-up pick, to get to North Polk, and North Polk just made quick work of them. I mean, like you said, their defense was incredible that game. But on the other hand, Pella took care of what I thought was an elite Lewis Central team, also worthy of a state title this year. And they played really well against them. And like you said, Colin Current, that's an awesome story there. I love that story with the converted wide receiver to the quarterback. This is really hard for me to pick because, I mean, I didn't have Pella going this far because of that Gilbert loss there towards the end, or at the end of the regular season. And it kind of gave me a bad feeling about him, and obviously they've put that away. If I had to pick a team for this one, I am probably going to stick with my pick in North Polk, just because, like you said, they have such an elite defense, and their offense works so efficiently just around the whole slate of things, passing and rushing. They just really have a good, efficient offense that works. So I think if I had to go with one, I would stick with the Comets to win the state title this year.
Yeah, I mean, I think the big story is when Pella's on the field, if they can score on this North Polk defense, because they just haven't given up anything. Offensively, North Polk, I mean, they're scoring 30-plus points in 4 of their last 5 games on the screen is, I guess you can't see, but I can see it. I'll try and show you. But North Polk's offense has been extremely effective. I think they're going to get their points. It's just a matter of Pella can score on this North Polk defense, which has shown it hasn't given up a lot. So I think that's going to be the matchup to watch. But again, the Class 4A title, your Thursday nightcap. Let's see what Nick and I had in Class 3A. Oh boy.
Yeah. This is the one that I did remember picking in.
Yeah. Nick, I guess I had 2 semifinalists. Nick had a Williamsburg team beating Mount Vernon, who, I mean, I don't think you can blame anyone for picking Williamsburg. I mean, that team looked like a title contender most of the year. They just fell kind of early to Independence. And then I had the 2 teams that fell in the semis, Sergeant Bluff-Luton and Mount Vernon. So I wouldn't call us Humboldt haters, but I tell you what, we obviously didn't believe in them enough, and they've proven us wrong. Again, Humboldt and Wahlert Catholic, even Wahlert Catholic too, none of us having those guys and how the high they're in our poll. So maybe didn't believe in those guys as much as we should have. But happy for both Humboldt and Wahlert Catholic to be in the 3A title. That one's going to be a ton of fun. Let's get to that one. I will have to hop back out here. We got this one is kind of your appetizer for the 5A game at 1 o'clock on Friday. Wahlert Catholic, Humboldt, Wahlert Catholic undefeated. They just hold off Sergeant Bluff-Luton on that blocked extra point, which was nuts. Yeah. Humboldt wins a thriller over Mount Vernon. Both these 3A semis were really fun. And some contrasting styles here. Cohen Matson for Humboldt, the lefty gunslinger, really fun to watch. He just plays with a lot of energy, leads this team in multiple ways. He's going to pass it. He's going to run it. And then with Wahlert Catholic, it's a lot of dosage of Michael Borman and this kind of option they run. Drew Riley's been solid under center, taking care of the football. Both defenses play extremely well and extremely physical. I don't know. I could see this being low scoring. Nick, how are you kind of feeling here?
Yeah, I mean, Wahlert is a team that, they're going to play really disciplined, good, just classic Iowa football, in my opinion. They run the ball really well. They play good defense, and Sergeant Bluff-Luton, they were the best rushing team in 3A this year, and they just kind of shut them down for the most part. And how things would go if that blocked extra point didn't happen and they went to overtime, I'm not sure. But I think Wahlert is just a really good team that a lot of people really talk about because they don't have any guys like Cohen Matson who put up these massive, impressive video game numbers. They're here. They're 12-0, and they've had a really good season. Humboldt, on the other hand, you have a guy like Cohen Matson who has just lit up the scoreboard for Humboldt. The first round that you went to with Clear Lake, that was just kind of a close game, 13-10, low scoring, and then the next week they pound a really good Solon team, and then they win a thriller against Mount Vernon, like you said. I really like Humboldt this year. I haven't really been a doubter of Wahlert Catholic just because of how good they've been, but I think Humboldt is just an electric team, and I think they're the best in 3A. And I could see them winning this one.
Yeah, when we both think of 3A, we think of a lot of Eastern Iowa teams as far as the elite, and what Humboldt's done is kind of knock them off one by one. Yeah. Solon, then Mount Vernon, and here you go, Wahlert Catholic, the final test. Yeah. This one's going to be a ton of fun. 2 great uni combos. I love these. I love these uni combos. I got some flack for throwing Humboldt at number 2 for my uni combo. Man, I love those things. I think they were slick. Yeah. But this one's going to be fun. This, again, your Friday appetizer at 1 o'clock is Class 3A. We'll move on to Class 2A. Nick and I's, what we both said is our favorite title game. And look at this. Look at this. We're not too bad after all. Nick and I both nailing the title. West Lyon. Nick has West Lyon over Spirit Lake, so I can assume where he's going to go with his pick. I had West Lyon and Spirit Lake in the finals. I'm not going to make a pick because I will be there, and I prefer not to get bullied by everybody. But I think this is kind of what we expected. I think Van Meter was someone we probably debated. Yeah. But man, when I got to see when I got to see West Line with my own two eyes at the beginning of this year, I knew that team was just a different level. Man, they play fast, they play physical. Those pads were popping in that West Line Van Meter game, man. They were hitting each other. And then Spirit Lake, just a track meet with PCM, and they just kind of outlasted them. PCM kind of got some momentum going, but Spirit Lake with Lunt and Stecker, man, they were lighting it up, and that offense showed that they can score at will. But now they get a West Lion team that gives up basically nothing.
Right.
So fun contrasting style here. Again, these two teams met in the sub-state final, the game to go to the Dome last year, where Spirit Lake practically hit a Hail Mary. I mean, it was a crazy ending. We should probably post that, actually. But it was a wild game. I will open up Bound here as Nick, you kind of get to what you're thinking in Class 2A.
Yeah, I just want to quickly just mention the Spirit Lake PCM game. I mean, Spirit Lake scored the most points in a Dome game in a couple years, really? From what I went back and looked at. And then you have to give credit to Adrian Robbins. I know we made a post about him, but I want to mention it here too. I mean, he just was a workhorse, no pun intended, in that game for the Mustangs. Yeah, it wasn't bad. I know. He was running so efficiently, and he played his heart out. I mean, he can say for certain that he finished the season. Him and PCM, they played as hard as they could. But Spirit Lake, they're an amazing team, and they deserve to be here against West Lion. I loved watching that West Lion Van Meter game. I think those are some pretty uniforms that they both wear.
The blue, white, and blue versus the white, blue, and white. I
like those.
It was that was nice.
It was a nice game to watch, and both of them played really well. I was really impressed with West Lion. I did not think that they would pull away like they did against Van Meter. Bryson Childress, he was just lights out in that game. It was so fun to watch him throw the ball in that one, and to watch West Lion's defense put up a good game against a solid Van Meter offense. And that's kind of what we've seen all season long from West Lion. And like you said, I picked them in this game because I do think that they are the best in this class. 2A was super competitive this year, like we've said, and they've beat Kemper Catholic, who is a top 5 team in the class this year all year. They beat Van Meter, who is a top 3 in the class all year. And now they get Spirit Lake, and I think they can take care of business and take home a title.
Yeah, I tell you what, you see what West Lion has done in the postseason. Western Christian, Kemper Catholic, Van Meter. Those are 3 teams who, in all likelihood, will probably end up inside the top 10 in Class 2A in the final poll. That's 3 top 10 teams that they were thrown at, and they've just dismissed them all. And Van Meter, I mean, Van Meter doesn't lose by 25 points.
Right.
Like, that just speaks to how impressive West Lion has been. But at the end of the day, they'd say the same thing. They still got one more, and this is the one that really matters here. They'll have their hands full with Lunt and Bodie Higgins and Dylan Stecker. Stecker just hit 1,000 yards receiving. That dude catches a lot of touchdowns.
Yeah.
You're gonna need some bodies on him. He is really fun to watch if you're looking for people to watch in this game. It's Stecker from Spirit Lake. I really enjoyed watching him. And then West Lion, not really a guy that just stands out. Not really a guy that's just gonna go do it. I've said it before about West Lion. It is 11 guys in the field, and they all do their jobs. There's guys like Jackson Heiser, Rich Kramer. I always enjoy watching him. But man, this is a football team. And that's what makes them. That's just what makes them so dangerous. So 11-1 versus 12-0. Spirit Lake's one loss came way back to Algona. Not really a loss you can knock them for. This one's gonna be fun. This is your breakfast option on Friday, 10 a.m. That's a really fun one to wake up and watch in 2A. Let's get on to Class 1A, where, drum roll please, Nick and I nailed it again. Grundy Center, Dyke New Hartford. I mean, even in the beginning of this year, Grundy Center and Dyke New Hartford, they've been kind of my no-brainer. Dyke New Hartford has kind of floated down a little bit, up a little bit after they lost to Grundy Center. But ever since that loss in Week 1, man, Dyke New Hartford has just been on a tear. They proved it again in the semifinals with a win over Hinton. And then Grundy Center, I mean, everyone's talking about that winning streak. It's the longest in Iowa. It's at 38. But I know inside that team and inside that huddle and inside that community, it's one at a time. And this is a formidable opponent in Dyke New Hartford. I think we've got the stat today. It's of the 38 games Grundy Center has won, 3 of them have been by one possession, and 2 of those came to Dyke New Hartford. So this is a team that if you don't play well, they will beat you. This Dyke New Hartford team is good enough to do that, and that's what makes this Class 1A final fun. Nick, what are you kind of thinking as I pull up Bound here?
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of a nightmare game to try and pick off of. Just Grundy Center's been so dominant for so long. They've kind of just become the staple at the top of the leaderboards every single year. And they're here yet again, another state title on the line for them. But Dyke New Hartford, with a little bit of research, you can see that they've got a lot of runner-ups, but no state titles yet. And I think that this is their time to do it if they're going to do it. They look incredible as a team. Colin Meester is a phenomenal quarterback for them, paired with Noah Borcherding in the backfield. They have a really formidable offense against a Grundy Center defense that just gives nothing up. I mean, in their last 4 games, they've gone a goose egg versus Hudson. They gave up 16 to Eddyville, Blakesburg, Fremont, 7 to West Branch, 6 to Sumner, 7 to Wilton. I mean, they just dominate on every aspect.
That's a good Wilton team,
yes.
too.
The Beavers, they came to play in the postseason, but Grundy Center's defense just, across the board, they're a phenomenal team. If I were to pick a team in this one, I would stick with my pick with Grundy Center. I like it, and I don't know, man. They're just such a dominant team. It's hard not to pick them. But I think Dyke New Hartford will give them a good game. I think this will be one of their closer games that they have in this win streak.
And I think what makes this like a game that points to like going to the wire or points to being really competitive is just Dyke New Hartford's offense it's nothing wild. I don't think they're going to go and put up 40 on you. What they don't do is they don't turn the ball over, and they rarely go backwards. And I think that's what's important against Grundy Center. Grundy Center is just elite at capitalizing off mistakes. You go backwards, you false start, you hold, you go behind the sticks. It's really hard to get back into this thing. Kind of similar to West Hancock. I think a huge key is getting out in front and showing that you can score first on this team. Because once Grundy Center gets momentum and the crowd gets going, because they're going to have a lot of people there, and so will Dyke. But I just think it's so crucial to get out in front. And I know we're going to talk about that with West Hancock. So Dyke New Hartford, Grundy Center, 2 foes that are very familiar. They've faced, once already this year, twice last year, and then once in 22, 21, and 20. So a lot of familiarity here. Grundy Center's won the last 4. Dyke New Hartford last one in 2021. But these teams are 2 teams that are going to know a lot about each other. It's going to be fun. I'm really excited for this. This is your 4 o'clock game on Thursday, so this will lead up to the 4A semi. Huge storylines there. That's going to be very noteworthy. Move on to Class A. A few more classes here to go. Nick just absolutely nailed this one right on the head. Nick has just known Class A ball all year, and he shows it yet again. Lisbon over ACGC is what Nick had. I can't talk too much because I had West Hancock over Lisbon. Obviously, Lisbon fell in the sub-state to Madrid, who made it to the Dome yet again. But Class A, tougher. I just kind of stuck with what's been there, and that's West Hancock. And then Nick kind of went outside the box. And those are 2 teams that were ranked inside our top 5 most of the year, so can't blame him for that. But West Hancock and TriCenter, what a story TriCenter's been. If I'm thinking of a team I'm excited to watch at the Unidome, TriCenter's up there as one of them because they were really fun in the semifinal. It's kind of the flashy new team that's never been there. It's always a fun storyline to follow.
Yeah.
And they got some players, Nick.
Yeah, I mean, you have to talk about A.J. Harder here. We made a post about him. The sophomore quarterback has been just playing lights out for TriCenter. And you look at the teams that they've had to go through. They were the team that had to beat Riverside, they were a great team this year in Class A. They had to beat ACGC, who is the wire-to-wire number 1 in the class. And then they had to beat St. Ansgar last week, which all love to St. Ansgar. They had an incredible season for them. And looking at the scores, they kind of made good work of every single team. None of them were really close. They whooped Riverside 58-13. They beat ACGC by 27. I mean, these are games that they're scoring a lot of points, and they're only giving up 2 to 3 scores. I'm really impressed with TriCenter, and I think this is just like a dream matchup for both of these teams just because they play wildly different football on the offensive side of the ball. It's, I mean, complete opposite ends of the spectrum with TriCenter. I mean, not saying TriCenter doesn't run the ball. They have Carter Coonsey,
who leads the dome in running.
Right.
Yeah.
He's one of the best running backs in the dome, but I'm specifically talking about how TriCenter is one of the best quarterbacks in the class, and West Hancock hardly even uses their quarterback whatsoever.
What I guess shocked me was West Hancock kind of went viral on social media a little bit just because of how they play. But when I think about West Hancock, that's just what they are.
Yeah.
It's like, it doesn't surprise
it's their
me.
identity.
It's just who they are.
Right.
But to the outside people, it's just like, it probably blows their mind. I actually dug around. AJ Harder has thrown more passes this year than West Hancock has in the last 4 seasons. But that, it doesn't surprise me.
Right.
It's just what they do, and they're effective and they're very good. And that's what scares me when these like flashy new teams meet up with a team like West Hancock.
Yeah.
It's like, it's when you meet that type of team. But I thought the same thing about St. Ansgar. I thought St. Ansgar was the powerful team that could shut a flashy team down, but TriCenter went out and took care of business and more. And St. Ansgar, they're a team that was within, 1-2 points of West Hancock back in week 2. I think this is a very intriguing matchup. I feel like a lot of people will dismiss Class A, but if I'm not picking the 2A game as my favorite game, I think this might be my favorite in terms of just how different these teams are, how little they know about each other. West Hancock has been here, the last 4 years? 5 of the last 6, I think I saw. TriCenter just got their first playoff win this year. Never been to the Dome. I mean, you dug up that stat. That was crazy. They were 0-11 in the postseason prior to this year, and now here they are playing for a state title with a sophomore quarterback. I think it's a really fun story. I'm very excited for this one, if you can't tell. Nick, what are you kind of thinking here? It's flashy versus brute force.
Like, it's so hard.
Something's got to give.
West Hancock, they have such a recent and rich history in the Dome, in the postseason, where TriCenter, like you said, is just like, they're like, we're here. This is the first time in school history that we're here. And I think, obviously, they want to make the most of it.
I will say, too, TriCenter and West Hancock, 2 teams that love us on Facebook. These 2 teams, these 2 teams follow us on Facebook. So if you're from Facebook and you're from West Hancock and TriCenter, we appreciate you, because I think Class A was our best performing class in terms of people sharing and liking and stuff. So TriCenter, West Hancock, we got more stuff coming. Don't worry, we'll post plenty of pictures of your guys' players. But we appreciate all the support. But Nick, you got to upset a fan base here.
I think I've decided. I've thought about it. I think I'm going to go with TriCenter.
There you go.
I love their storyline. I love that they've just come out of the woodwork and just made themselves into this incredible team this year. I think
it's a fun story.
Yeah, and I think AJ Harder's here to stay. I think he'll wreak havoc in Class A for years to come. I'm going to go with TriCenter. I'm going to have him take a state title this year over a legendary West Hancock team.
Yeah, I think this could be an instant classic if all goes well and we see what we think. West Hancock can score quick, even though they only go on the ground. We saw that again in the semis. Move on to Class 8-man, our final class. Appreciate everyone for tuning in today. Not too bad here for Nick. Remsen St. Mary's over Lennox. His runner-up was in the semifinals. I don't think that's a bad thing at all in a Class 8-man where it's very top-heavy and hard to pick in these close ones. And then I had the Dons. I had Don Bosco over Remsen St. Mary's. Just fell short in the sub-state. Gladbrook Rhinebeck is here. Team they beat. So obviously neither of us picked GR here.
Yeah.
But we've got Remsen St. Mary's and Gladbrook Rhinebeck, and I'm super excited for this one. 2 teams that kind of play a little bit of a contrasting style in terms of 8-man. Nick, what are you kind of seeing here as first thoughts?
Yeah, first I want to say I picked against Gladbrook Rhinebeck a few times this year. They've just been a great team for the last few years now. Drew Ehlers has been, I mean, he's just been a stone cold killer when it comes to playing quarterback and running the ball. He has been lights out. He played really well against Lennox last week, who we know they were one of, if not the best teams in 8-man, and they went out and beat them 43-27. I thought that was really impressive, obviously, because I had Lennox in the title game. And then Remsen St. Mary's on the other side, they took down the reigning state champion Bishop Garrigan, and they were looking like for a little while there that they were going to be back to defend their title, but Remsen St. Mary's said not so fast. And now we've got a really good 8-man title game. This is not one that I think I would have picked at the beginning of the year, but I really like this matchup between these two.
Well, GR, you were losing a Mr. IAfootball quarterback. I mean, there's a lot of question marks with Gladbrook running back. And Ehlers has stepped up. And looking at the stats here, you got 2 quarterbacks that lead the way in passing and rushing. Not that that's a crazy thing in 8-man. I think Colin Homan for Remsen St. Mary's could be a huge factor. That's a big frame to throw at. I think it's crazy how Ehlers, man, he's got 121 tackles on defense. And that's just an 8-man thing. And then you look at Remsen, that's a very balanced defense. Keaton Harpinaugh got his 10th interception. That might be the state lead. I'm not sure. I'll have to go back and do some digging on that. But not many guys in state have double-digit picks, and he's one of them. This is a fun one. I think I see this one as a little more low-scoring, just kind of how Remsen St. Mary's plays defense and offense. They like to run the football. They like to control it. Obviously, they won their semifinal game 22-20, which is pretty low scoring for 8-man. And then even Lennox and GR was 43-27, which isn't like too wild. But I see this as a little bit more low scoring in 8-man. Not going to make my pick, but Nick, who you kind of leaning here?
Yeah, I do want to say you're right. He is the leader in interceptions in the state, and the only one with double-digit picks. So,
Keaton Harpinaugh.
Yeah. I do want to say quick before I make this pick, Gladbrook Rhinebeck uniforms. They're solid. Fire. They could have been in that list that you made.
Yeah. GR's unis are fire.
I think I'm going to...
both these teams were the away team, too, in the
semis. Yeah.
So I think Remsen St. Mary's is the home team now.
Yeah, I think you're right.
That's okay. GR's whites are tough.
They're good looking. I think I'm going to go with the team with a lot of postseason history. That's kind of what I've been leaning on. In some of my picks, I'm going to go with Remsen St. Mary's. We'll see how it works out because, like I said, I've picked against Gladbrook Rhinebeck, and it's obviously not worked out for me whatsoever. They've had both of these teams impressive years, but I'm going to go with the Hawks to take another state title home this season.
Perfect. We appreciate everyone for tuning in. That was a solid half hour of some fun look back at what Nick and I had a month ago, and then some preview of the state title. So appreciate everyone for tuning in. You will see me at the Unidome. Don't be afraid to say hi. Happy with how many people came up to me and thanked me, but really it's not me. It's a lot of Tony Hager, man. He's helping us. He's supplying us with the ability to cover this sport. And so we appreciate everyone for following along. Be sure to check us out next week for our award show. I'll be back. Nick might be back for that. We'll see how that goes, but we'll be crowning Mr. IAfootball and much more. So we appreciate everyone for tuning in. Have a good day, and good luck to everyone at the Unidome.